There are engines that make power, and then there are engines that become legends. The Nissan RB26DETT wasn't just built to dominate racetracks, it was engineered to obliterate the competition so completely that it literally killed an entire racing category. This is the story of an inline six that earned its nickname not through marketing, but through sheer, unrelenting dominance. This is the story of Godzilla's heart. In the late 1980s, Japanese automotive engineering was entering its golden era. Toyota had the 2JZ. Mazda was perfecting the rotary. But Nissan had a problem. They wanted to return to Group A racing with the Skyline GTR nameplate, which had been dormant for 16 years since 1973. The original GTR had dominated Japanese touring car racing from 1969 to 1972. Winning 50 consecutive races. Those were big shoes to fill. The initial plan was to use a 2.4-liter turbocharged engine and compete in the 4,000cc class, as Group A regulations multiplied turbocharged engine displacement by 1.7. But there was a problem. When Nissan's motorsport division, Nismo, added the advanced Atessa all-wheel drive system, the car became too heavy to be competitive in that class. So they made a bold decision. Instead of compromising on the technology, they increased displacement to 2.6 liters and decided to compete in the higher 4,500cc class. This wasn't about making things easier. This was about building something so dominant that the added weight wouldn't matter. The result was the RB26DETT. Response balanced 2600cc, dual overhead cam, electronic fuel injection, twin turbo. But those letters and numbers don't capture what this engine truly represents.
Let's talk about what makes the RB26DETT special, because this wasn't your typical production engine dressed up for weekend racing. The engine features a cast iron block for durability and an aluminum cylinder head with dual overhead camshafts operating 24 valves. The bore and stroke measurements of 86 mm by 73.7 mm create an over-square design, meaning the bore is larger than the stroke. This configuration is critical because it allows the engine to rev higher with less piston speed, which translates to an 8,000 RPM redline from the factory. But here's where it gets interesting. Unlike hydraulic lifters found in most production engines, the RB26 uses solid bucket lifters, a design typically reserved for race engines. This allows for much higher RPM operation and more precise valve control. The intake system is unlike anything else in its class. Instead of a single throttle body, the RB26DETT features 6 individual 45mm throttle bodies, one for each cylinder. This setup provides instantaneous throttle response and ensures each cylinder receives exactly the airflow it needs. It's the kind of sophisticated system you'd expect on an exotic sports car, not a production vehicle. Then there are the turbos. The parallel twin turbo system uses ceramic Garrett turbochargers, with the front turbo fed by cylinders 1, 2, and 3, while the rear turbo handles cylinders 4, 5, and 6. This parallel setup eliminates the lag typically associated with sequential systems, providing immediate power delivery across the rev range. The factory boost pressure was set at just 10 psi, but the engine was clearly capable of much more. Due to the gentleman's agreement among Japanese automakers, power was officially rated at 276 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque, but independent testing revealed the engine was actually producing closer to 320 horsepower from the factory. Think about that. Nissan built an engine so strong that they had to deliberately underrate it by nearly 50 horsepower just to comply with industry standards. That tells you everything about the philosophy behind this power plant.
The R32 Skyline GTR made its racing debut in March 1990 at the opening round of the All Japan Touring Car Championship. What happened next was nothing short of extraordinary. From 1990 to 1993, the R32 GTR won all 29 races it entered in the Japanese Touring Car Championship. Not most of them, all of them. 29 starts, 29 wins, 4 consecutive championships. The dominance was so complete that by 1993, the JTCC had essentially become a one-make series, with 16 R32 GTRs competing against each other. But Japan wasn't the only place Godzilla was terrorizing the competition.
Down in Australia, the GTR was making an even bigger impression. Jim Richards won the 1991 Australian Touring Car Championship, and Mark Skaife claimed the title in 1992. The pair also won the Bathurst 1000 in both 1991 and 1992. The Australian press, watching this Japanese machine absolutely demolish their beloved V8 Fords and Holdens, coined a nickname that would stick forever. They called it Godzilla. It was the perfect name for a Japanese monster that couldn't be stopped. The R32 was so technologically advanced compared to its Group A rivals like the Ford Sierra Cosworth RS500 and BMW M3 Evolution that it essentially killed the category. Racing organizations couldn't balance the competition. The GTR's combination of all-wheel drive, twin turbos, and sophisticated electronics made it nearly unbeatable on any track surface and in any weather condition. The race-spec engines were even more impressive. Nismo's Group A competition engines, built by the Reinig division, could produce between 450 and 600 horsepower, all while maintaining reliability for endurance racing. These weren't fragile, temperamental race engines that needed rebuilding after every event. They were bulletproof. When the R33 GTR arrived in 1995, many enthusiasts were disappointed. It was longer, heavier, and often called the black sheep of the GTR family. But the RB26DETT remained largely unchanged, receiving mainly refinements like a wider oil pump drive collar to address failure issues from earlier R32 engines. The R33 generation did give us something special, though. In 1997, Nismo unveiled the 400R, produced in just 44 units. This ultra-rare machine used the RBX GT2 engine developed by Reinig, featuring an 87mm bore and 77.7mm stroke for 2.8 liters of displacement. With forged pistons, upgraded connecting rods, hand-ported heads, high-lift camshafts, and larger turbochargers, it produced 400 horsepower. The 400R was essentially a race car for the street, and it proved that the RB26 architecture had far more potential than even its impressive factory specifications suggested. Then came the R34 in 1998, the final evolution of the RB26DETT. The most significant change was the switch from journal bearing to ball bearing turbochargers, which reduced friction and improved response while retaining the ceramic turbine wheels. The N1 specification models and special Nürburgring editions received steel turbine wheels for enhanced durability under extreme conditions. The R34's engine management was also more sophisticated, with revised camshaft profiles for better low-end torque and more powerful processing capabilities. While the advertised power remained the same due to the gentleman's agreement, independent testing showed the R34 was producing approximately 321 horsepower.
For those who wanted the absolute best the RB26 could offer from the factory, there was the N1 specification. Nismo developed the N1 engine specifically for Group A and Group N motorsport, finding that the standard RB26DETT required too much maintenance for racing use. The N1 block featured improved water and oil channels, a crankshaft balanced to higher specifications to eliminate vibrations between 7,000 and 8,000 RPM, upgraded pistons with 1.2mm top rings, improved camshafts, and most importantly, steel turbine wheels instead of ceramic. The N1 block was stamped with identification marks 24U or 25U versus the standard 05U block. These changes transformed an already impressive engine into something truly special. The N1 engines could handle the rigors of endurance racing while still being docile enough for street use. It was the ultimate expression of Nissan's engineering philosophy. Build it strong enough for racing, and it will last forever on the street. In 2002, as Nissan was preparing to end R34 production, Nismo created something that would become the stuff of legends. The Z-Tune was Nismo's final love letter to the RB26DETT, and they held nothing back. The Z-Tune used a special RB26 block based on Nissan's Le Mans GT2 and GT500 racing vehicles stamped with RRR designation. With an 87mm bore and 77.7mm stroke, displacement increased to 2.8 liters. But that was just the beginning.
The engine received a stroked crankshaft from GT500 Racing, forged connecting rods, custom-forged pistons, hand-ported cylinder head and intake manifold, more aggressive camshaft profiles, upgraded turbochargers from IHI similar to those used in the 2004 Nürburgring 24-hour race car, larger injectors, and enhanced cooling systems. The result was 500 horsepower and 398 pound-feet of torque. Only 19 Z-Tunes were ever built, each one representing the absolute pinnacle of what the RB26DETT could achieve with Nismo's racing expertise applied without compromise. These weren't just fast cars, they were functional pieces of automotive art, each one capable of 0 to 62 miles per hour in 3.8 seconds and a top speed of 203 miles per hour.
Here's where the RB26DETT truly earned its legendary status. While many high-performance engines require extensive modifications to handle increased power, the RB26 was built with such strength from the factory that it could handle enormous power increases with minimal internal work. The stock bottom end has been proven reliable at 600 horsepower or more with proper tuning and supporting modifications. Think about that. An engine designed in the late 1980s, rated at 276 horsepower, can reliably handle more than double that power without opening it up. For those seeking 600 horsepower, the upgrade path is surprisingly straightforward. Better fuel delivery with larger injectors, around 1,000 cc's, improved turbochargers like the Garrett GT2871R or BorgWarner EFR 8374, a high-flow fuel pump delivering around 280 liters per hour, and proper engine management. The forged pistons, strong connecting rods, and robust crankshaft from the factory mean the internal components can handle significant boost pressure. The basic cylinder head and engine block design are fantastic and more than capable of 1,000 horsepower or more with supporting modifications. And tuners have pushed it even further, with extreme modifications including forged internals, stroker kits increasing displacement to 2.8 or even 3.0 liters, upgraded turbochargers, extensive headwork, and professional tuning. The RB26 has exceeded 2,000 horsepower in drag racing applications. The RB26's strength comes from its racing pedigree. Because it was built as a Group A homologation special, regulations dictated that parts used in racing had to be fitted to the standard road car. This means factory components were actually engineered to handle 600 horsepower or more in race use, despite being installed in cars rated at under 300 horsepower.
No engine is perfect, and the RB26DETT has its quirks that tuners have learned to address over the decades. The most notorious issue is the oil pump drive system. Early RB26DETT engines had a short nose crankshaft where the section driving the oil pump was very short and engaged only a few millimeters of the pump. This could lead to oil pump failure and catastrophic engine damage. Thankfully, R34 models and later R32/R33 models address this with a wider collar design. The oiling system itself presents challenges under high G loads or extreme conditions. The engine's oiling system can struggle during hard cornering or acceleration, making upgraded oil pumps from Nismo or aftermarket suppliers essential for high-performance builds. Another consideration is the ceramic turbine wheels on standard turbos. While they spool quickly, they're fragile under high boost. The N1 specification and special edition models used steel turbine wheels specifically to address reliability concerns under racing conditions. The engine's length also creates airflow distribution challenges. Being a long inline six, there can be significant variation in airflow between the first and last cylinders under boost, requiring careful tuning to prevent lean conditions that could damage head gaskets or pistons. These issues aren't deal breakers. They're simply things that knowledgeable builders account for. Upgraded oil pumps, aftermarket turbochargers with steel wheels, proper engine management, and experienced tuning address all of these concerns.
For decades, enthusiasts have argued about which is better, Nissan's RB26DETT or Toyota's 2JZ GTE. Both engines are legendary, both can make enormous power, and both have passionate followings. The 2JZ has some advantages. It features a more robust oiling system with better cooling channels and a stronger oil pump. The iron block with closed-deck design is exceptionally stiff, and the sequential twin-turbo system provides excellent power delivery. Many argue it's more reliable at extreme power levels. But the RB26 has its own strengths. The shorter piston stroke means it can rev higher more easily, and that high-revving character gives it a personality all its own. The parallel twin-turbo system eliminates sequential lag, and the sophisticated individual throttle body setup provides throttle response that few engines can match. The truth is, both engines are exceptional. The 2JZ might have a slight edge and ultimate strength for 4-digit horsepower builds, but the RB26 offers a more engaging, rev-happy character that enthusiasts find addictive. The RB26 is also significantly rarer, being installed in far fewer models, which adds to its mystique and desirability. Production of the RB26DETT ended in 2002 when the R34 Skyline GTR was discontinued. Its successor, the VR38DETT in the R35 GTR, launched in 2007, is a completely different engine with a V6 configuration rather than inline-six. But the RB26's story didn't end there. In fact, its legend has only grown stronger over the past 2 decades. Recently, Nismo announced they would resume production of RB26DETT parts, allowing owners to rebuild and maintain these engines with factory-quality components. This is an almost unprecedented move, showing the lasting impact of this power plant. Today, RB26DETT-powered GTRs command premium prices, with clean examples selling for well over 6 figures. The Z-Tune models, when they rarely appear for sale, can fetch over $1 million. These aren't just cars anymore. They're rolling pieces of automotive history. The engine's influence extends far beyond the Skyline GTR. Tuners have swapped RB26s into everything from Nissan 240SXs and 350Zs to Toyota Supras and even American muscle cars. The aftermarket support remains strong, with companies like HKS, Tomei, Jun, and Greddy continuing to develop new parts. The RB26DETT represents something increasingly rare in the modern automotive world, an engine built without compromise. Nissan didn't set out to build an engine that would be good enough. They set out to build an engine that would dominate, that would be remembered, that would become legendary. They succeeded beyond anyone's expectations. This engine didn't just win races. It won so completely that it changed the rules of racing itself. It didn't just make power. It made power so reliably and with such potential that tuners are still pushing its limits 3 decades later. The RB26DETT is proof that when engineers are given the freedom to pursue excellence, when they're allowed to over-engineer and overbuild, when they're permitted to create something that goes beyond mere specifications on a spreadsheet, they can create something truly special. Godzilla. The name was born out of respect mixed with frustration from competitors who couldn't match it. But it stuck, because it's perfect. Like the monster it's named after, the RB26DETT is a Japanese creation that became a global phenomenon. Something that seems impossible until you see it in action. Something that commands respect and maybe just a little fear. This is the story of arguably the greatest inline-six ever built. An engine that helped define an era, that set standards that are still referenced today, that continues to inspire new generations of enthusiasts. This is the story of Nissan RB26DETT.